is Shubahm Goel. Our third candidate is Carlson. Our fourth candidate is Wildstar. Our fifth candidate is Tenaj. Our sixth candidate is Zoltran Istvan. Okay. Our seventh candidate is Mikade. Our eighth candidate is Desmond Silveria. All right, gentlemen, go ahead and take a seat.
Where are the women? Where are the women?
So our three panelists will ask the questions and I will direct the questions to the candidate. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond. There is a timer on the iPad in front of you, and if you go over on time, I will gently remind you that your time is up. Our first panelist is an educator and small business owner, Jack Wong, owned Foundation for Human Trafficking, Maria Suarez. And our third panelist is a veteran and a community organizer, Alton Plaza. The panelists will ask the question, and one table of candidates will answer that question, and then we will move on to the next panelist. So let's start with a minute opening from each candidate, and we'll start with table one.
Hi everyone, my name is Shubahm Goel, and I'm the youngest candidate for governor of California at 22. The reason I decided to run is I was born in California, I was raised in California. Born in the Bay Area, lived in Central Valley, lived in Los Angeles. I was part of the public education system in California my whole life. I graduated recently from UCLA, and part of the reason is I see the everyday people in California struggling. I currently work as a virtual reality manager for a leading virtual reality company in San Francisco. There I'm able to see how all this new technology is able to fix a lot of the problems our state has had for the last 20 years. It's time to get money out of politics and get this technology in it. So I just wanted to run to show the everyday people that we can have feasible and practical platforms as long as we try. So thank you.
Thanks for the hat, Shubahm.
Yeah.
I want to start off by bringing your attention to the woman standing and about to take a seat. That's Veronica Fimbres. Now, started by running candidate with the Green Party, and I truly believe that maybe if she had run with almost any other party, she'd be on the ballot right now. I wish that my party had given her more support, and you have mine. So if you can write in Veronica with a K onto your ballots, that would mean a lot to me. I am here to talk about a few things that I haven't really talked about in my campaign so far that I care very passionately about. Domestic violence, animal treatment and welfare, which would include banning feedlots and tethering, and also talking about the prisons in our state. I am a 29-year-old, my birthday was last week, puppeteer. Thank you, Nick. I'm running a green and gold campaign with Libertarian candidate Nicholas Wildstar, who has the 100% endorsement of the Libertarian Party.
Oh, thank you.
I wrote a puppet musical that is my entire campaign platform in verse, and you can find it at Guber2018.com. I look forward to this event, and thank you very much, Amy, and everyone for putting this on.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Wow, that's louder. My name is Nicholas Wildstar, and I am the Libertarian candidate running for California governor. The reason why I'm running for governor is because the people need a leader that's willing to fight alongside them. And as someone that's been a community activist for the past 10 years out there protesting against abuses of authority, civil rights violations, equality rights, etc., my record proves that I'm one that will stand alongside the people and fight alongside them. The people are also looking for someone that's willing to take bold risks and have provide new ideas. I moved out to California from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to pursue a career in music. My music is available on iTunes, Pandora. One of my songs is on the movie Scary Movie 4, so I've strived and survived based on that dream. And I want to provide that solution to the people of California to let them know that dreams do come true. The people of this state also would like someone that's hardworking and understands the trials and struggles. I've been a working class person for the past 20 years. I've worked from, done jobs from janitorial work to working as a loan assistant to help people that are struggling with their own personal debt. So this is why I'm running for California governor, and this is why I'm hoping that the people will select Wildstar for governor.
Hello everybody, my name is Klement and I am running for governor as well. I'm running for governor because California really needs a bright new leader with a vision and powerful voice. Someone who's going to actually represent all the people of California and not only those on top and special interests. I'm self-funding my own campaign. I'm not accepting any penny from big corporations, super PACs, or unions. I am self-funding my own campaign. Look, I was born in Albania. I came to America with my family when I was a kid. I lived in New York City, I moved to California, I went to school in California, and right now I have my own foundation to help feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, and educate the needy. I have my own schools for low-income and at-risk youth. When California failed to provide quality education to our students, I stepped forward and opened my own schools. I opened 2 schools for low-income and at-risk youth. And right now I'm asking for your support, for your vote. Please join me. You can visit my website at www.clementenajforgovernor.com. Thank you very much.
Hello everybody, I'm Hakan Mikade, Governor of California candidate, and one of the biggest things that I see as a millennial and as an entrepreneur is that together we are able to make a massive change. And Californians have seen in the last election that we are voting for the worst of 2 evils, or for the better of 2 evils, rather. And we need to stop that. We need to create a country and a state that actually has Californian values, that shows the support of the people, not just of the corporations. One of the things that we're looking to put in place is publicly directed government spending, so you actually get to say where your tax dollars are spent. And if you like that, cheer.
I was like,
Awesome. So we are here today so you can get an idea. And there are 27 candidates. You need to figure out who is actually going to represent you best, and make sure you go out and vote your truth for a change. Hakan Mikade for governor, and join HakanMikade.com. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Desmond Silvera. I'm running for governor because I don't feel that the current representation in state government represents the people very well. California is largely known as a blue state, but according to the Public Policy Institute of California, a great many Californians lean right on social issues and left on fiscal issues. Those numbers include a lot of immigrants that might favor Republicans on abortion, marriage, and family, but can't get in line with Republicans because of their trend towards xenophobia, hostility toward minorities, and a lack of preference for the poor. I ask you to vote for me. I'm pro-life, pro-family, pro-community, and pro-environment.
Okay, panelist number 1.
Yes.
Ready for your first question?
Yes, I am. So, you ready?
Yeah.
What are your views on the seniority-based pay, teacher tenure, and last in, first out employment policy for public school teachers? And yes, payments to the state public employee pension fund, chiefly CalPERS and counselors. are the blooming share of government budget, crowding out spending on the education, social services, and yet these funding are dangerously underfunded. So what would you do to solve the problem?
That's a great question. I mean, the education system in California is so vital, and right now it's struggling, right? So first thing I want to do is the top of the education, we need to revamp completely. I went to UCLA, and the Board of Regents, they govern the 9 UC campuses, right? They control the tuition spending. They control a big deal of how these UCs function. So first thing I want to do is, instead of the Board of Regents being appointed by the governor, the Board of Regents will be elected by the students of California. This will prevent issues like where the president of the UC got caught hiding $175 million from the students. Another thing I think a lot of teachers in general are being vastly underpaid, right? A lot of funding for our CSUs and our UCs, it's non-existent, right? So our rainy day fund, I want to take $250 million from that and split it halfway each between the UC and CSU system. We need to get more money into these educational systems. And like I said before, I'm a virtual reality manager. The virtual reality technology is so significant, and with the mobile VR lowering in cost, we should incorporate VR into schools across California. That technology makes you learn so much better and vastly, and it makes you, yeah. Thanks.
Both my mother and stepfather are public education teachers, and I promised them that I would do them proud today. Teacher tenure and these teachers and pensions, we're talking about people who are putting their lives and careers into the education system and the state, hoping that they will have the opportunity to retire comfortably after their sacrifice. And we always talk about education bearing the load of our budget cuts whenever we're spending too much on that. We're also spending a lot of money fixing roads that are broken by semi-trucks. And considering we have the 5th largest economy, as people keep saying, and I kick myself for saying it again, the fact that we're talking right now about pension reform and shortchanging these people that we promised all these things after they held up their end of the deal is shameful. We have to kill some sacred cows when it comes to how we're treating business in our state, including Proposition 13. Thank you very much.
Great.
Okay, panelist number 2.
What do you think about Proposition 47 and 57 and AB 109? Please explain why you support it or why not.
So fracking is a major issue, especially in California. We have a really large supply of oil here in California, yet it's being pulled up, and we also have some of the largest tectonic plates here, which means that if we continue to frack, we're going to continue to get more earthquakes, and we can end up in another 1906.
So I am very pro-environment. I believe that we need to put major limits on the natural resource extraction that we do, whether it's coal mining, fracking, or even things like deep sea fishing. I don't believe in absolute bans. I would instead rather institute significant taxation on natural resource extraction, so that it decreases the level to a sustainable level. Although that would be an increase in taxes, I think we can also at the same time decrease income taxes to maintain net zero revenue stream.
Okay, panelist number 1, your second question.
Right? Now describe your position on public education, student debt and tuition, and what are your views on school choice and the expansion of charter schools?
For table number 2.
Then I'll pick it back up for him.
All right. I do not support Provision 47. Look, I want a fair justice for everybody. Okay, we need to stop the war between poverty and racial justice. I would reform Provision 47, 57, and AB 109 because look, they passed Provision 47 in 2014. because our state prisons were overcrowded. So now they're dropping cases from felony to misdemeanors. Now you have criminals and violent people in our streets being dangerous to our people and to our children. So our reform provision 47, 57, and 8B 109, we have to make sure that, look, these criminals and violent people and thieves who are in our streets, they can commit crimes today, and they can do this daily basis as long as they stay, they can steal your property as long as they steal under $950 per day. Even if they get caught, even if they get caught by the police, they can take to the station and they'll release them within hours because Proposition 47. If you commit the crime, you must pay for it. We have to be tough to these criminals. We have to be tough to thieves. And that's why I support to reform Provision 47, 57, and AB 109.
Well, from what I gathered, these are bills that are to reform our criminal justice system, and the fact that I don't know about them, or the majority of Californians don't know about them, proves how our government has gotten out of control. We should know what are the bills that are being proposed by our legislative body. And when it comes to our criminal justice system being reformed, the first place that we need to start is get the prisoners that are in jail that are there for victimless crime to be allowed to leave. We shouldn't be putting people in jail for victimless crimes. And I think, if anything, these proposals by our legislators need to be reviewed, and then they need to be repealed. And this needs to be done publicly, to where people of the public, those who will affect the most, will know exactly how it will have an effect on their lives, and then allow them to be able to choose which ones passes and which ones are repealed.
Can I add something? They were actually voted by the people in 2014, Mr. President, no.
By how many voters?
Check it out.
And that's the thing. We have over 20 million registered voters in California. How many actually vote on these bills?
Okay, thank you. Panelist number 3.
Do you support Proposition 70?
Shubahm actually pointed out there's an extreme incredulous amount of misappropriation of funds with our UC system. The UC president squandering away over $200 million is ridiculous. So I definitely think there needs to be some accountability reform when it comes to our UC system. But our K through 12 program is the same thing. We have faculty members that are receiving $400,000, nearly $500,000 a year for their salary. Meanwhile, we have school teachers in our preschool that are getting paid $30,000 or so. So I believe that our teachers in the classroom need to be paid more money, 6-figure salary minimum, and allow the teachers and the parents to be able to construct the educational programs. This one-size-fits-all dictation by the government constitutionally should not be. The government shouldn't be involved in creating an educational system nor a healthcare system.
Thank you.
Well, as a school owner, I know firsthand who's hurt the most when it comes to education system. I know firsthand who is left behind when it comes to education system. I think the question is, what can we do to fix the education system? So, look, people of color and poor communities are the ones who are left behind when it comes to education system. Look, we need to invest in early childhood education. We need to bring these programs back. We need to invest in public education, K through 12, special education, and free 4-year community college. Because if we don't, by 2030, we are going to be 1.1 million short educated workers that we need to keep our economy moving forward. It is time to invest in education once again, and that's what I'm going to do as your next governor of California. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes. You can have my time.
All right. Well, he pointed out something great, and with him being a person of the public in the private sector, government, he was able to create that. But government doing so is an extreme fallacy. I mean, look at what's going on with our UC system. We're digging ourselves deeper into debt. So if anything, I would review the amount of student loans that have been issued out to people fraudulently and cancel that debt to where we can eliminate the amount of debt that the people in the state of California are actually having to pay for.
So that we can decrease the number of people incarcerated and redirect funds to rehabilitation and decreasing the incentives to commit crime in the first place. We should decrease prison populations.
Panelist number 3, your second question.
Do you support cap and trade? Explain why.
For those in the audience, cap and trade allows fossil fuel companies to, based on their level of pollution, purchase legitimacy with the amount of pollution, which they can afford. And at least if the state is unable to intervene and affect their levels of pollution, the state is able to profit off of that. We had a very contentious discussion about this at one of our most recent General Assemblies in the Green Party. And it is our position that this cap and trade policy does not go far enough to actually affect the change in the action that we are wanting to see in our response to the climate. I think it's still allowing companies to make matters worse. We had some other people of the opposing viewpoint who believed that we were foolish, that cap and trade was the best negotiation we were going to get from businesses. So I'm going to ask and call on the public, as this is a call of action, to educate yourselves about who's doing this, who's polluting the most, and do your very, very best to become as independent of those companies as possible. As for me as a candidate, I do support cap and trade. Thank you.
Like Chris said, I don't think it goes far enough. Look, we have Silicon Valley. We're in the hub of technological innovation, so it's crazy that the data for fossil level pollution isn't readily available to the government to see. We need to create a board, first of all, that will oversight the data. Secondly, we need to have either the private sector or have a third-party vendor audit the government that oversees these levels so we can get a centralized source of data, use single forms that every company that is using fossil levels will have the same form, so the data will be consistent with each other. That way, based on the data, we can actually make decisions based on this policy. The problem is the negotiation, it wasn't far enough. That's because we haven't utilized Silicon Valley to help us. We can make our state efficient green, but when we just push forward just to settle for a compromise, nothing good happens. So don't really support it. It doesn't go all the way. I think it was I'd say it's less than I have like a metaphor here, but I forgot it. It's kind of like you want to get something good for takeout, but then you just settle for I don't know, the Jack in the Box right next to you. You could have gotten a little better, but you didn't. It was just laziness, inefficiency, and they didn't think about it.
Okay, panelist number 1, your third question.
Do you support reform to Proposition 13? If you do, what would you change, corporate tax, property tax, or both? Now please give us an example.
Taxes are one of the best ways for the government to make money and be able to reduce debt and profit and actually get us into a profitable standpoint. Corporate taxes, I run a small business. We've done really well for ourselves. I was able to retire and come run for governor. And as a California business, I would be willing to pay more taxes if get more tax deductions at the same time by being held accountable to do specific things. For instance, hiring locally, hiring other California vendors, and in order to get those tax breaks, because as a California business, I can write off pretty much anything. And while these bills have been put in place, most of the companies that are actually would actually be paying taxes aren't, because they know how to get around all of the tax laws. They know how to do all the tax deductions so that they don't have to pay taxes. So holding companies in California accountable in order to receive the tax breaks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our tax system needs to be completely reformed by decreasing income taxes and increasing taxes that on activities that hurt our society, instead of focusing on income or specific taxes that has no impact on activities that don't necessarily impact society in a negative way. I'd like us to increase taxes like the gas tax, taxes on fracking, on coal mining, on marine fishing, and other activities. And I know that that may sound regressive to some people, but we can also build in a higher tax deduction and tax credits, and possibly negative income tax for low-income people to compensate for that.
Thank you.
Can I add something?
Yes, 2 seconds.
California as a whole, Californians pay a huge amount in taxes, and if we created something like a cashback tax act where we eliminated income tax for money spent in California, it would encourage both individuals who are high earners and are spending money out of California, as well as corporations, to bring more money back to California. The more money that's in California, the higher our economy goes, and the more money that stays in and more taxable income we have.
Hawk actually made a great point by pointing out how he is a small business owner and would like to do more with his money if he didn't have to pay more taxes. So California isn't the 5th largest economy in the world because we're paying that amount of taxes. We need to reduce the taxes dramatically, which is why I'd like to eliminate them all.
Panelist number 2, your third question.
I am a survivor of human trafficking, and I open a foundation to spread the awareness and give hope to survivors. Only in California alone, we have over 5,000 cases of human trafficking. If elected, what would you do to stop human trafficking, and what type of programs would you provide to help survivors?
Table number 1.
Thank you so much for bringing up that question. It's weird, in California, the human trafficking issue, it kind of seems like it's not really brought up enough. If you don't think it happens in California, you're living in a rock. It happens. So what we need to do with the human trafficking issue is, again, look, healthcare officials, they're required when they see human trafficking of any signs with patients, they have to report it. Same with the police, same with educators, but there's different requirements for all 3 of these, right? The government needs to do its job, create a centralized source, get all 3 of those parties involved, so anything that's ever reported, everyone sees it, the government sees it, and we need to make a new board to oversee that whole step. And this way, if everyone's on board and the government can control from all the sources where the data's coming from, then we can accurately start fixing the issue for human trafficking. Because in California, it does exist. So again, it's just about getting everyone's resources and pooling it together. Oh, my tongue's like pooling it together. What, pulling? No, pooling. Both. Pulling, yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Let me not mince words on human trafficking. I know human trafficking victims. This is something that people get killed for talking about. This is something that mafias are involved in from many different countries in California, and they're active. We do not have the hiring and diversity in our police departments to penetrate all of those mafias. The FBI and federal organizations are not doing enough to engage these mafias and act on behalf of the victims. On the other hand, this is also a small business issue because there are many low-level human traffickers, and a ton of them are happening right here in Hollywood, where people even over the age of 18 are coming to Hollywood to cut their teeth, and they're finding themselves seduced into scenarios where they're trapped. We're talking about people you don't see on the street and you can't find by Googling. So we need better hiring in our law enforcement and get them away from harassing the homeless and responding to domestic violence cases, because we need to reduce that too, so they can have time to focus on their investigations into human trafficking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Plan for housing and the homelessness.
Table number 2.
Well, I think the best way as governor that I could create more affordable housing in the state is by deregulating the industry to allow homeowners and developers to be able to build more housing. That's what's preventing them from doing so right now, is the cost to build is just too high for them to buy materials, for them to pay employees. We reduce the cost all around for them, we'll have more affordable homes be built. Not to mention if we get rid of the zoning regulations that prevent developers from being able to build, we prevent homeowners from being able to decorate their home or create whatever type of home that they would like because of compliance issues. So I think the best way for government to incentivize and promote more affordable housing development is by getting out of the industry altogether and allowing the demand to be met by the free market. Now when it comes to our homeless population, we gotta admit the truth. There are some people out there that are homeless by choice. So what I would propose is maybe retrofitting some of our unused Army bases, or maybe the 40 million square acres that we have in the state of California, to make it available for people that want to live in tents to be able to camp out there. We also have undelegated amount of funds that could be used to build homes. In Los Angeles alone, they earmarked over $2 billion for the past 2 years to build homes. They did nothing. What I would like to propose as governor is use that money to build homes for those who want it. There's 3D homes right now that can be built using a 3D printer for less than $4,000. They're being used right now in El Salvador. We could use that same type of technology here in the state of California to provide homes for those in need.
In the nation, we're short 1.1 million units in affordable housing. Thanks to John Shane for late and unbalanced budgets. We have the highest population in the nation. Thank you to Gavin Newsom for showing 1 time a week to his job. Look, we need to solve this problem once and for all. As for next governor, I'll repeal Coastal Hackings and Ellis Act. I'll replace it with a bill that is not only going to protect landlords, but also residents and environment. I'll build at least 200,000 houses per year, or 3.5 million by 2025. I'll cut the waiting time from 5 years to less than 2 years from concept to permit. Because look at the working class people are living in California because high rent. And look, you have working class people working 2-3 jobs, and they have to decide between putting food in the table for their family or paying for their rent. This is insane. We have to hold our politicians accountable, and we need to elect a governor who's actually going to work for the working class people and not those on top and their donors. Thank you.
I'm homeless. Anyway, yeah, so I think with the housing crisis, what it comes down to is the supply doesn't match the demand. And a lot of the big part of the reason is a lot of local governments and municipalities, they aren't approving or denying housing projects within a year. They'll take 5 to 10 years because they don't want to change how their local area sounds. So one thing we have to do is there's no real enforcement for local governments to comply with this. So any local government that takes over 12 months to approve or deny a development project, we will fine them $30,000 a second attempt. They have no more say in this matter. Thank you.
So high taxes, high rents, and too many regulations are making it too hard for small business to survive.
Well, one of the ways that I believe we could help protect small businesses is one of the proposals I would like to help every individual in the state of California, and that's eliminate all taxes. I believe by eliminating all taxes and replacing them with a good faith tax, which will allow the individual to be able to contribute however much they want. It's like when you go to church, when you pay your tithes, you put in however much that you can afford, and on that slip you get to choose where your money goes. So I believe that also providing tax options to businesses as well as individuals will allow that funding to go and be delegated specifically where it may be. So that would be a reform of the tax form altogether. But payroll taxes, business taxes, all of these are affecting small businesses. So if we eliminated them altogether, let them have more money in their pocket, they'd be able to hire more employees, create more jobs, and get the economy of this state going once more.
First of all, you cannot eliminate all taxes because how are you going to pay for stuff that you're promising to the people of California? Second, yes, we need to invest in small businesses. Look, as a small business owner, I know firsthand that yes, higher taxes are pushing a lot of small businesses away. Higher taxes and too many regulations are destroying our small businesses and working class people. It is time to invest in small business because small businesses are the engine to to our working class people. Small business is basically the engine to our people. And if 50% of local residents are employed by small businesses. I'm a small business owner. I know this firsthand. We also have to make sure that we invest in agriculture industries. 1.2 million people who live in Northern California are employed by agriculture industries and infrastructure. It is time to reform Provision 13 and make sure that we cut taxes for the small businesses and give tax break to new businesses, at least 5-year tax break to new business, so that money can actually go in people's hand and not in regulations and big corporations. Thank you.
I've given responses to everyone's had 10 seconds to respond at least once, so we're just going to keep going. I'm trying to be fair to
Have you
everyone.
made a direct response towards me?
I'm trying to be fair to everyone.
Okay.
Okay, so panelist number 2, your fourth.
Do you think public officials should be accountable for their sexual harassment and scandals? What would you do to stop politicians who are using taxpayers' money to control and cover their sexual harassment cases?
Table number 3.
Sexual harassment it's disgusting, it's wrong, and I don't care who you are, if you're doing something that is illegal to the rest of the world, you should be held accountable for it. So, and if they're using taxpayer dollars, then that's even more illegal. That they're doing, if they're doing something and then they're trying to cover it up, by spending taxpayer dollars, that shouldn't be allowed. We need to do a better job of enforcing it. We need to. It goes back to not just politicians, not just law enforcement, not just the general public, but really creating a unified force that can help stop not just sexual harassment, but can stop human trafficking, can stop other domestic violence. And there's an organization called Operation Underground that helps prevent this. And if the government was to actually implement similar practices by having military and law enforcement do more to prevent this, then we'd be a much safer state. Thank you.
So I think the answer is pretty obvious. Yes, of course, sexual harassment is wrong, and we need to hold our politicians accountable by getting them out of office, especially if they're using public funds in the process of their wrongdoing. I'm a member of the American Solidarity Party, and I joined this party because I feel that it is the party that is the very most in favor of human dignity. We respect human dignity for all persons, regardless of gender, race, national origin, any criteria. Just being a human being entitles a person to a sense of human dignity. There's no reason to harass women, and politicians should not get away with it.
Panelist number 3, your fourth question.
Do you support single payer? Why or why not?
Table number 1.
I think the goal of a single payer to provide coverage for everyone in California is admirable, but the studies show that a single payer system will cost $400 billion a year. That's twice our state budget. There's no way, the way that our system's set up, that a single payer would get passed in California. So instead, I want to use feasible measures to improve our healthcare system as a whole. The first thing I'll do is I'll create a public database of opted-in healthcare records of our patients in California. Then we will give that data to companies that use artificial intelligence, and based on that artificial intelligence analysis, they can go to their healthcare patients, right, of the insurance companies and say, based on this data and based on your genetics and your past, we can predict what will happen to you health-wise in the future better. Based on that, this will save billions of dollars in preventive care. Another thing I want to do is Well, that platform was actually called Health Share instead of Healthcare Health Share, by the way. Another thing I want to do is every insurance company, I will mandate they give a free health monitoring device to any buying patient. This health monitoring device could be anything that takes your blood and sees what, how do you have any illnesses. It could be if you have diabetes in your past, you can measure your glucose levels. If we give these health monitoring devices to every single person that is buying insurance, right? These devices will also be IoTs, which will send real-time data to the doctors. So instead of just going for a checkup every year and then hoping that nothing's wrong with you, this will send real-time data 24/7. With health monitoring devices, we'll be able to take, instead of just having the healthcare industry having power over our health future, you'll be active in taking it into your own hand. In California, feasible measures like these two can fix everything for all of us. So it's time we use these feasible measures. Thank you.
I'd like to open with a brief moment of silence for SB 562. Okay, single payer is going to happen, whether it happens at the federal level or in California first. Our state is already moving to cover undocumented persons in our state completely under Medi-Cal. Unfortunately, if you compare the federal disability to California SSI rejects a ton more applicants because that existing reserve is not covering it. There used to be a time where employers could offer competitive health plans to the state health system before Nixon. That kind of job and that kind of incentive no longer exists because the labor market is flooded and the unions aren't organizing for better benefits, and we're already talking about cutting pensions in this debate. So I do support single-payer healthcare, and I believe that we should follow the lead of other demonstrated successes in the world. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to have our 30-second closing from each candidate, and I want to start with table 3.
Hi. I'm asking you to vote for me, Desmond Silvera of the American Solidarity Party. I seek the common good on common ground through common sense. I'm pro-life, pro-family, pro-marriage. I support religious liberty. I'm for social justice, community, health care for all, and peace.
Thank you.
Hold on. I also support localized government, so that communities can decide for themselves instead of being force-fed the values of the state and the federal government. Thank you.
You've heard from 6 of us today, and there's 27 people. So first of all, you've heard some incredible ideas, some ideas that you may not agree with, and you need to make sure you're going out, figuring out who's going to actually make California better for you. And don't just vote for whoever just because they're part of a specific party or because somebody else in your family is voting for them. Go out, figure out who's going to be the best person, and vote your truth for change. Thank
you. You're sitting in.
All right. So my name is Shubahm Goel, and when I tell people I was 22 and I ran for governor, they either have a heart attack or they think I'm in Disneyland. The thing is, in California, when you think of statewide offices like the governor thing, you think you need loads of money, you think you need loads of fame, and you think you need a huge political backing to run and make a difference. I wanted to show the everyday person and young people, you don't need any of that. All you need is conviction and feasible platforms. There were 4 debates for the top 5 candidates recently. I went to every single one to protest to let me in, despite having not having a top 5 polling candidate. The final 4th debate, I got in. Perseverance. I made the moderator let me speak. So my thing is, no matter what, stick by your guns. No matter what they say, you don't need money, you don't need fame, like their TV ads show you. You can make the change yourself, and we need technology. Get the money out, technology in. My slogan is the Gold Rush, like the Gold Rush, the 1800s. There was so much prosperity in California, people love it. The Gold Rush.
Don't take his time, baby.
So let's go.
If you can't afford a vet, you can't afford a pet. Please stop hitting your spouses and children. Please work on what you need to work on. Get therapy. Veronica, you have until that hits 30. Get up here fast, please.
Stand up and talk.
10.
No, stand talk here.
Shut up.
Hi, my name is Veronica Fimbres, and I'm a write-in candidate for the Green Party for Governor of California.
10 seconds.
I'm a nurse. I've worked in the prison system as a safety nurse. I believe that we should have universal health care, and in California there's so much we can do. I'm called the compassionate candidate because I care about everybody. I've been where you've been. I'm a humanist, and I care about all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for recommending.
Thank you, Chris.
Table number 2.
Look, I'll let you go first.
All right.
We'll take the time.
All right. Well, as Hawk pointed out, there are 27 candidates running for governor, and you've heard from 6 of them today. The one thing that I hope that you heard from me is I'm going to be a different type of governor. I'm not going to force you to do anything that you want to do. And as a libertarian, that's what I'm standing for, is the principle of liberty. You should have the liberty to choose where your tax dollars are going. You should have the liberty to choose what school you want to go to, what type of educational program that you're going to receive. So as governor, that is what I'm proposing to do, and I hope that you will choose me as your next governor and vote Wildstar.
Well, Veronica, I support single payer too, so thank you for those words.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, again my name is Klement. I'm a CEO, I'm a school owner, and I'm an educator. I know firsthand how to fix these problems we have today in California. As your next governor, I want to inspire the young, give hope to the working class, and a voice to the voiceless. Please join me and vote Klement for Governor of California, June 5th. Thank you very much and have a great day, everybody.
I spoke with almost all 27 campaigns, and these are the ones that chose to come today, and I ask that you give them a round of applause.
Yeah.